Hi guys, welcome to this short video about using divs, classes and IDs. So as you can see here, I'm using Dreamweaver CC, and I've got a picture that you would have seen before from the box model video, and I've simply added a couple of paragraphs of dummy text here. So our code at the moment looks like this. Okay, so not really that exciting. Dummy text here, a couple of paragraphs of that, the image that we've seen before, and what I've done though is I've added a couple of divs. So a div is a generic container to which you can add an identifier. Now these containers are useful for putting things in that you then want to style in a certain way or move to a position on your page. And to move things, certain things to positions on a page, you need to be able to identify what it is you're moving or positioning, and that's what these divs are really useful for. So what I've done here is I've added a div. This is the first one here, starts here, ends here, and the next one begins here and ends here. Now what I've done is I've given the first one a class name of explanation, and the name can be anything you like. And the other one I've given ID of content. Once again, the name can be anything, but try and make sure that the identifying name sort of describes what is in the container. Okay, so what I want to do is simply show you how you can style a div with either a class or an ID. Okay, so let's start off with styling the one that's got the class. Now if you want to style a class or apply CSS styling to a class, you have to start off with a full stop and then put the name, explanation, in this particular case. So the full stop here means that we're styling a class. If you want to style an ID, it has to start with that hash symbol, sometimes called the pound symbol. Don't know why, but in some situations it seems to be called that. Okay, I tend to call it hash. Okay, so I've already made some styling for this, and I'm just going to go grab that from a different document that I've got here. Let's copy that and move back to here. So this is simply making that first container with the class of explanation 650 pixels wide, and hopefully by now you realize what this will do. Margin 0 auto, that means 0 margin top and bottom, but auto left and right has the net effect of centering whatever is, in this case, inside this container. So notice that the text and the image are both inside the container, so they are centered because the container is. Okay, so that's simple styling for that one. Let's have a look at content. Now at the moment, notice that this is not inside the first container, therefore the styling for that does not apply here. So let's give some styling to this div with an ID of content. Once again, the styling can be anything you want it to, so I'm just going to use this bit of styling here. Okay, so I've decided to make the width a little wider than the other container. Put a different background color on it so you can see how it's different from the other one. And what is this? This border radius? Well, we know how to put a border on, but this is applying a border, okay, of 12 pixels. And we'll have a look and see how that looks in a moment. The margin 0 auto, so once again this is centering whatever is inside this with whatever's got the ID of content. In this case it's a div, so it's going to center this paragraph on our page, and we're going to use some padding of 20 pixels. Okay, let's have a look and see how that looks. So there we go, we've got our container. It's got these rounded corners here that you might be able to see, and we've got the padding of 20, meaning that this content is basically being forced inwards actually as a result, because the container itself has got a certain width. Okay, and perhaps just to show you one other thing, okay, the margin. We want a bit of separation between this container and the previous one. Yeah, I think this should work in this case. Let's put 30 pixels here. Okay, so we do have that vertical separation now between the two containers as well. Okay, the border, notice, even though it's rounded, we actually don't have any particular color, and we don't need to. You can actually set a separate border style if you're really interested in that, but if you just want a rounded effect on your container, then you can just use the border radius property, okay, which is what this one is doing here. Okay, so divs are containers. They can have a class or an ID associated with them to identify them, but classes and IDs can be actually attached to anything, not just divs. The difference between a ID and a class is that this div with an ID of content, you can only use an ID once on a page. So I couldn't give, say, this paragraph an ID of content, because then we'd have two IDs with exactly the same name and the browser would freak out. But you can apply a class to multiple things. So we could apply this class of explanation to this container and to other containers like it. Alright, so that's it for a little bit about divs, classes and IDs for now.